Does art imitate life, or is art what's in our heads? And if it's in our heads, can we articulate it? Well, with me today is someone who certainly can do that. Belinda Eaton, welcome to 24/7.
Hi.
And welcome back to Pakistan. I believe it's been 10 years.
Yep, a long time.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, because I know that you went to St. Martin's. I know that you've lived in various countries in the world. But how did you sort of evolve into this painter?
I don't think I evolved. I think I was born as a painter, and probably life's followed that. So I was born in Kenya and Mombasa, where I was surrounded by colour and magic, and I think one of my earliest memories is seeing chameleon changing colour, which is instantly, bringing the awareness of colour in, and then just continue travelling the rest of my life.
So where have you lived? Where have you travelled?
Africa, Spain, New York, London, France, Pakistan, Karachi, back to Spain.
How did you get to Karachi?
I got to Karachi via my husband.
And so you got married and came here. And you exhibited here, I know.
Well, I came here and got married.
You came here and got married. You came here, got married, and how long were you here?
I was here for 4 years.
And you did 3 exhibits in 4 years?
Yep.
So how do you think your paintings have changed, from the 3 exhibitions you had here over 10 years ago?
Well, obviously time. I've changed.
How have you changed?
Oh gosh, I got older.
These are not older paintings.
I've got older and wiser. No.
Are they wiser paintings?
I wouldn't say they're wiser, I'd say they're stiller. I've moved now from city lives, from being in New York, from being Karachi, to living in the middle of the countryside. I was in Barcelona for a while, and I think I live in the desert where all the spaghetti westerns were made with Clint Eastwood.
Oh, is that why you've got these, there's a bit of spaghetti western in some of these?
Can you see that?
Yeah, I can. Oh, that's amazing, really.
But I've been influenced heavily by films, so. Well, I've done that a lot. I did that when I was at art school, and I did, the first year of my degree course was filmmaking, which incorporated a lot of body painting, camouflage into my background paintings, moving forward. Taking a lot of inspiration from Varushka. I don't know if you know who Varushka is. Yeah? The model in the 60s. Yeah. There was a lot of body work.
Who's influenced you the most, do you think, in terms of your art, or what, other than the places you've lived and the chameleon that changed color? What are the big influences on you?
I'd say to begin with, early Renaissance art. Absolutely
hence the body.
Love it. Yeah, hence the body. Yeah. I like a lot of tribal art, African art, Aboriginal art. Going through because of the markings. There's an abstractness to it, relationship to the land with it, which I like, which is why I also see the body and faces as landscapes to be walked across in a way.
So now you talk about the body and faces as landscapes, like this painting. You told me that you flattened it.
I turned it on its side and upside down to paint. And
so you painted it like you'd paint a landscape.
Yeah.
Not a portrait.
Not a portrait at all. But that was to take away from the fact that I was painting a face. It was so I'd merely be looking at colour, light, and just paint each stroke, just dealing with it in that way, breaking up the colour and breaking it into the energy of colour and form.
So do you think that gives it more power? Because
Definitely. It's got, well, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to judge my own work, but for me it vibrates, and it's got, the energy.
And you still managed, despite all that, the vibrancy, everything, you've still managed to get all the proportions right. So it's almost like a vibrant portrait. It's not, it's not the pretty picture, but it's a portrait. And it's not a portrait, it's a landscape of a portrait.
Yeah. I actually don't like being termed a portrait painter.
But you do a lot of faces.
I do faces, but they're not intended to be portraits of people. They're intended to be worlds that you step into and move into, evocative. You get absorbed into them.
So what's the word here?
I can't answer that.
You can't answer that?
And I don't think I can answer that about paintings of mine until 10 years or something's passed by.
Really?
I'm too, And also, I try not to put my mind into it, because the moment the mind comes into it and you start to paint with the mind, I think you lose the essence.
So there's no conscious kind of effort here, it's completely subconscious.
Yeah.
It's a
and that's really
flow.
important to me.
Yeah. Well, you can see it in the brush stroke. You can see it, but the strength of the brush stroke, you feel that it's not planned. it's strong and it's powerful.
Because I don't think you would do some of those brush strokes if it was planned. I mean, some of those brush strokes don't belong, I don't think, on skin.
But there could be the mountains in New Mexico.
Exactly. Or the deserts where I live.
Yeah. And the eyes also, you know, they're very strong, and the color that's coming through, you know, there's a light in them as well.
And I always paint the eyes last. Yeah, it's very important. Otherwise, once the eyes are painted, the paintings, they have their own spirit, their own soul.
That comes to life.
And then it's not mine anymore, you know?
The windows to the soul.
Oh God, yeah, afraid so.
Too many cliches.
Let's have a cliche there. But
like this face doesn't have any markings, no tattoos, no
She
nothing.
didn't need any. She was totally, it's just there, you know? It's just light for me, shining through. Maybe the markings come through when, no, I don't really want to think about it right now.
You don't want to think about it?
No, because then I'll be thinking about it on the next painting, and it'll
destroy it for you?
control the next painting, yeah.
You know, you seem to have a fascination with faces, with plants, animals. You know, it's this sort of combination of man and nature kind of thing. So, you know, what's that? And there's a lot of color as well. I mean, you know, and it's not in your face color. It's not color for the sake of color. Like even this woman's face, there's a lot of color in her face, but it's not, you know, like primary colors.
Well, I think that's my relationship with life. I'm quite, how dare I say, I'm quite a spiritual person,
right.
And I have an absolute passion for everything in life, and I don't really see any separation between animals, plants, people, anything, and they all exist in that.
How old were you when you left Africa?
6.
Okay, because I think one of the most spiritual experiences I've had has been in Africa on safari, where, you know, it was literally like you were one with nature, and to me that's when you transcend everything, and if you can be one with nature, you kind of arrived.
Exactly.
Spiritually anyway. But
I thought you were trying to change the subject then, but you weren't.
No, I wasn't. So is there any sort of conscious symbolism in your work? Or is there any symbolism?
There's symbolism. I've been asked this recently. It's not conscious, but I know it's there. And there are things that come up again and again in my paintings. Pomegranates, fish, prawns.
Yeah, what's with the prawns?
I love prawns. For me, they're very happy. I love the form of them. I think they're delicious. And they make me very happy when I'm painting them. They make me laugh as well when I'm painting them, and that seems quite important.
Prawns make you laugh. Because, you know, again, I'm a scuba diver, so I've seen prawns at the bottom of the ocean.
They don't make you laugh.
No, they are. They're actually quite cute because they scuttle along at 100 miles an hour.
They've got a lot of personality.
They have personality. And what about pomegranates? Do they have personality?
God, there's something very symbolic about pomegranates. When I had a solo show in New York years ago, the pomegranate was the symbol on the front of the thing that went out to the press. Whether it harks back to my childhood in Spain, you know, I ran free in the countryside picking pomegranates. You eat them, the juice is everywhere, you have to get messy, you have to chuck it around. It's free, isn't it?
Yeah. And
like watermelons.
Like watermelons, and Africa and watermelons, I guess. And pomegranates.
You have to eat watermelons on the beach, you know, and just get messy.
And mangoes.
Yeah.
That's the other one. But you don't have mangoes in your work. Did you not get into mangoes in Pakistan?
I don't think there's something in the form of the mango that appeals to me.
But it's the messiness and the juice.
But I love mangoes.
Yeah. You know, let's come back to the technique. You know, as you said, this is a you know, supposedly a portrait. It's a face, but it's really a landscape. The way you painted it. So, you know, like what kind of techniques do you employ?
You mean how's it painted? Basically, with all the canvases, I think most people know actually, I start off with a black background.
A black background?
Every single canvas starts off with a black background.
Really?
Yeah. I can't paint from white. So that the first, I mean literally the first brush stroke you do, that colour jolts you. And from there you're just seeking and finding colour within that black. It starts to tell its own story. So literally, yeah, it's just a building up of brush strokes.
How many layers, say, on this face?
This one, not as much, say, as the more narrative ones.
The prawn.
No, well, yeah, the narrative ones where that you can see there's a little more going on in the picture, that in those, the whole story can change. So say, for example, there's I don't know, they're throwing...
Gamblers.
Yeah, the gamblers. They could just have been having a snack at the table to begin with, and then it became the gamblers and their cards. So if you x-rayed the painting, you'd actually find out they've eaten, they're full, they're now playing cards. I don't know, but you know, a story evolves, which is why I don't do
you
any...
keep painting over your story?
Yeah.
That's really
Just on
interesting.
some of those. And I can spend hours on something and just paint over it.
Immediately. And what
And on that side, I could have spent, I don't know, a week on one side, and then come in, it's totally wrong, and just start painting really fast, because wet on wet is fantastic. If you're painting, because I paint acrylics, so they dry really fast. But if you want the colours to move into each other, you've got to work fast, and it becomes very intuitive. So the whole side could be done in an hour, but it's over what's taken weeks.
Wow. So could this have started off as something else other than
No,
just a
not
face?
this. The faces were faces.
The faces are the faces.
Yeah.
But the gamblers could have started off as a
Dancing girls.
meal. It could have started off as a meal and then...
Yeah.
It did, because the martini's there. There's a
I think
martini.
also they were playing dominoes at one stage.
That's why that's there.
The suits were different colours, the arms might have been in a different place. I think his arm was down on the table. You know, there's a real evolution that happens through it, which I could make life a lot easier for myself if I planned all that out to begin with.
But you don't.
No, because that would be boring just to be repeating what you've already drawn.
So you're going to confuse the hell out of people, you know, hundreds of years down the road. When,
I know.
You know, when some art historian takes out your painting and say, "Oh my God, but she's painted over something," you know, and then there'll be this whole
trying to uncover the original
layers and layers of painting. So
not realising the final one was probably better than all the ones underneath. But I think, who is it? Gustav Klimt did that, didn't he?
Yes, Klimt did that. But Klimt
with his decoration over the body.
he was phenomenal. Yeah, but how much of the narrative did he change? I mean, you've changed the narrative completely.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't happen to such an extreme with all the paintings, but you'll find women are wearing jewellery underneath there, which they're not wearing later, or...
So there's something, so there's more to this. So you know, it's the tattoos are like a veil.
Yeah, layers and
layers. So it's
and a journey. You know, it's a journey for me, each painting too.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But we're going to take a short break. Our journey will continue. Stay with us.